Hello and welcome to this session on Festive Season, Unraveling the Key to Optimizing for Growth. Festive season brings a lot of delight for brands. As people are in a happy mood, they love to spend during this time. And more so, this has been a tradition for Indian audiences. Most brands report maximum sales during this quarter across all ticket sizes. They have been earmarking huge advertising budgets to garner maximum eyeballs during this time. Previously, they were heavy on traditional, but now they are spending more on digital and mobile mediums in a big way. So let us now hear from the marketers on how they are gearing up to maximize this opportunity. What are the tools and technologies that are available to them to optimize their campaigns and deliver contextual and omnichannel experiences to engage audiences across different demographics. I now welcome my guest for the day. My first guest for the day is Mr. Harsh Khanna, Lead Performance Marketing, Wow Skin Science. Welcome, Harsh.
Hey, hi Devesh. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Glad you could take out time for this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
My next guest for the day is Mr. Amit Phadke, Vice President, ETBE. Welcome, Amit.
Hi, Devesh. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, Amit. My next guest for the day is Ms. Smita Murarka, Chief Marketing Officer, Duroflex. Welcome, Smita.
Thank you so much, Devesh. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita. My next guest is Mr. Mayank Jain, Head of Product Marketing, Swiggy. Welcome to the session, Mayank.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
And my final guest for the day is Mr. Kapil Bonde, Marketing Evangelist, INSEAD from Adjust. Welcome, Kapil.
Thank you, Devesh, and really thank to the entire panel for being a part of this panel, especially given the time we are in, the peak season. So really thank everyone for that.
Absolutely. And let's make the most of it, since everybody has taken out time, during the festive season. So let's make most of it. I'll begin with you, Smita, first. Okay. So during the when you plan your annual calendar, okay, so do you plan for the festive season at the start of the calendar, or is it more like, you go for the improvisations and you see, how's the mood of the country, and then, plan for the festive season closer to the time?
Yeah, see in India, I think obviously in all countries, but in India, Diwali, Dussehra, and the period around this, which is 2-3 months, it's quite active.
Yeah.
Definitely a big period. And a lot of shopping is kind of held up to make during this period, right? Definitely more so for our categories, which are more expensive. It's not really impulsive. So we are in the business of, sleep solutions, our main product being mattresses. So it's not something that you change whenever you want to. So a lot of people buy houses during this time. They renovate their homes or they move into a new house, and that's a time when all such categories get bought for many people. So almost 30 to 40% of our business and for many brands of our like happens during this festive period. So definitely it's a very important pillar in our marketing planning right from the beginning in terms of allocating the money for it. So what we tend to do is we tend to come up with the big ideas. Either if we are going in for a celebrity, then most likely the launches during the festive period. So all these kind of decisions is what happens before the year starts, and that money is allocated. Last 2 years, it was the reverse of your question, where probably we had big ideas and then we had to scale back. No, not last 2 years. For us, it was 1 year. Second year, we were still, even though pandemic was going on, we took some brave decisions. But for many brands, it was different, right? Where they had to scale back on plans. And even this year, in terms of spends, it is another year for marketers where externally there's a lot of situation, there's a lot of unrest in terms of economic conditions. While India is still strong, a lot of marketers are still playing safe. So I talk on behalf of that it has been the last 2-3 years have been uncertain. So while marketers plan ahead and they have big plans, sometimes it has resulted in scaling back those plans because of external situations. However, I would still advise that, this is the biggest part of your business and your sales targets, your entire proposition is the highest during this period. So to plan separately and keep that money aside and maybe scale back if required, but not the other way around.
Interesting. Amit, people love to eat food. and you rightly mentioned at the start that you would love, you love to see people coming together, so that they can order more food. Okay, so how do you plan your festive season? Is it at the start or around the festive season?
Well, generally, as a rule, all our planning happens, as much of it as possible, happens at the start of the year.
Okay.
Because as Smita also said earlier, we need to allocate a certain part of the budgets. But the unique proposition that we have is that we are essentially a branded house and we have a house of brands, right? So we see that there are different periods which are very important for different brands. For example, for Behrooz, the Ramzan Eid period is very critical. Not that it is not celebrated in this festive period, everyone is, but that is also a very critical period for us. For a brand like Lunchbox, which plays a lot on festivities, the Shravan period, the Navratri period is very important because we have certain tailored offerings around it. And the last 3 months of the year, of course, are festive for everyone, right? So this is probably the most important festive period for us. So by and large, the way the brands get calendarized is basis the peaks that we anticipate for them, and we do plan for all of it at the beginning of the year, but not to say that we don't improvise, right? So if we find the right opportunity somewhere, if there's an impact property which comes by, which we feel will be a good participant in, we are open to adjust our plan slightly. But overall, it's always good to have a certain amount of readiness so that you can produce your best work. The quality of the films that you come out with are better, the campaigns that you come out with are better. So we normally like to be prepared for this festive period. And as I said, the good part for us is that there's always something festive happening for one or the other brand throughout the year.
True. So Harsh, people love to look their best during this time, and then glow is an important part, and you help them glow, even better. So, do you plan for this glow at the early?
Absolutely. Wow, as a brand, we've planned September, October, the entire festivities much ahead of time. In fact, we very recently launched a couple of stars on the brand as well, Kartik Aaryan and Rashmika Mandana.
Right.
Both of them were launched. So, for the entire brand, it's like sort of a peak time or a peak moment, and planning accordingly for such a peak moment is quite essential. And even the budget allocation, like we've always mentioned, it's a critical part of it. You need to start planning in your calendars. You need to be aiming for certain amount of revenues, and you got to hit that target. So it's absolutely essential at this point in time. We've seen multiple consumer behaviors, all across all categories. But the common factor or the commonality between all is that, most of the brands, most of the categories see a great spike during this particular period. And it continues for quite some time. So you have your Navratris leading on to the entire festivities, and overall it continues. So that particular time, reaching out to the consumer, being relevant, being festive, resonating that mindset is quite essential, I feel. And if you don't plan for such an event or such a time period ahead of time, you're probably looking at higher costs later on. So that is something, that most brands are, aware of and maintain.
No, absolutely. So Mayank, everybody's sharing their point of view. Do you also earmark a festive strategy at the beginning of year at Swiggy? How early is this festive strategy pitched in? Or, what are the dynamics now? Have these dynamics changed, depending upon the situation or eve of the festive season? What do you think?
See, actually, planning is a part of any product marketers or any strategy team's key KPIs.
Okay.
And without planning, you are destined to fail. So I don't think it is any different from what any other organization would do. But planning for festives, etc., is a part of the game. And I wouldn't say that there are always tweaks, there are always improvisations that you do basis what you've learned from your past year's experiences.
True.
But planning and planning well for festives is an integral part of what we do here, as much as it is for any other organization, I would say.
So this is all, this is all done at the beginning, or you earmark it at the beginning, or you keep on improvising it. What happens is that, at some brands, it is done at the beginning and then improvisations are done, or you leave it at the beginning and you only, go ahead during the festive season? How does it work?
No, I think it is of course a dynamic organization. So there is planning that happens at the beginning, and then there are improvisations that take place through the year.
Okay.
See, the environment that in which most of us operate is very, very dynamic.
Okay.
So you can't really be fixated to what you thought is the best strategy. As you move forward in the year, there is obviously a lot of changes that happen.
True.
And it is for the good.
True. Kapil, what has been your experience, while working with the multiple players? Most brands are, planning the festive season at the start of the year.
Yeah. So even for us, means the way we have seen the ecosystem is the same thing, that everyone knows that this is also a season where if you don't plan it in advance, there could be last minute cost escalations as well. So that is why we have also seen people do plan it in a much advanced manner. And towards the and what we have also seen is it's not only the festive season. There are also the spike also means after festive season it declines slightly, but after that it still picks up, because there are sometimes there are the clearance sales and all. So that's why we also see slight uptick. As a result, we see advertisers keeping on their marketing campaigns even slightly after the festive season. So that is how even what we have observed from our data.
Interesting, because I believe as a lot of aggressive marketing push that happens during the festive season, there's a lot of aggressive spike in the customer expectations also, because in today's digital era, there's a lot of the customer expectations has risen. Okay, so how do you balance the customer expectations during this festive season? Smita, I'll begin with you first on this.
Yeah, it's a highly cluttered period. And as Harsh was saying, even for advertisers, right, if you're not smart about our buying or our plan early enough, we definitely have to pay a premium or not get what we really want to achieve from our campaigns. So highly cluttered, and definitely for the consumer, they are in the driving seat where everybody is trying to really boo their attention and the share of their wallet. And the customers are aware of that today. As much as we've made it transparent with e-commerce and digital marketing, consumers also got the power to really make the right choice for themselves, right? So it is very important that you stick to your brand promise. A lot of brands tend to deliver something else, or go a very different route from that regular narrative, and they try to probably follow what competition is doing in terms of just giving deep discounts or following some footsteps of the category which may have got created just during the festive period. So a lot of that happens to stay competitive, but in that you lose your USP as a brand. So I would really advise, and what we tend to follow is, while of course a little bit of offers, discounting, or whatever the norm may be, it needs to be followed, but we tend to really talk a lot more about the product USP. As you mentioned, the consumer experience is very important. The consumer is very demanding of finally how they are treated during this period. So we invest time and effort to serve the consumer better. Our advertising is served in the right places, and now even more so, since our category has become a lot more competitive. A lot more brands have come in. Since the pandemic has made brands like us very strong, it has definitely attracted a lot more brands to become competitive. So many of them go down the discounting route, heavy discounting, and that's something we've learned to kind of stay clear of as much and stick to our positioning, because ultimately there's enough share out there, I believe, for a good brand to take. And if your narrative is strong and if you're sticking to your positioning, it is something that everybody, because there's a huge upswing. So there is a share that a lot of brands, and I'm talking this more from a brand perspective than Amazon or Flipkart, who wants to take every Indian's wallet share. I think there's enough for each brand like ours to kind of grow and own. And there's enough space during this period. So we should all enjoy the festivities, and the marketers shouldn't be any more pressurized to lose their sleep. And they should enjoy it as much, because there's enough to be done.
Absolutely. I believe, as the GMV number increases, the marketers, are happy to lose their sleep,
Not in our world. We would want everybody to sleep better.
Right. So Amit, how do you manage the customer expectations during this time?
Well, so we stay true to our core promise of
Right.
delivering pristine, high quality, tasty food to our customers wherever they are, right? But however, our problems get amplified because of the fact that we are an on-demand channel, and you
Okay.
would not like your pizza to come 2 or 3 days after it is ordered. So
True.
what happens is that there's a lot of stress on the supply side as well. We need to augment our capacity to serve those customers in exactly the manner which they kind of expect us to. Because I think one of the key hallmarks of good brands is that the customer expectations are set in such a way that they're highly predictable. The customer knows exactly what is going to be served to him or her. But having said that, what we also realize is that we need to jostle for the attention of the customer as well, right? We
Mhm.
need to create properties which are interesting, activations which are interesting, which appeal to the customer, which talk to the customer. And that is a challenge for us marketers as well. Apart from just running campaigns and getting customers onto the app, you need to also keep them on the app, and you need
Right.
to keep them coming back. And that is
Right.
possible only when you can, to an extent, personalize what you're offering to that each and individual single customer. Also create a lot of interesting properties around the app which keep on giving customers reason to come back.
Right.
And I believe that if you give customers enough reasons to come back to your app again and again, the chances are that they will stick for you longer. And so the core challenge is a twofold. One is to keep the customers' interest high, and the second is to keep our supply side ready so that whatever the demand is, we can keep serving them. Interestingly, what we've observed is on days like Holi,
Hmm.
till about 2 in the afternoon, you'll literally not find anything on Swiggy and Zomato. The channels are perpetually closed, but we
Right.
managed to keep serving the customers, and
Okay.
that is how we've managed to get customer love over the years.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. Harsh, what's your story on this side, in terms of managing the customer expectations?
Yeah, I mean, coming to beauty and personal care, I mean, the entire category in itself is very sensitive about, taking into consideration what you serve to the customer, and that should reflect ideally in your product, first of all. I mean, as a brand promise, I think that should be maintained across the year, let alone, the urge or the importance of the festivities. But across this particular time, I mean, serving the customer demand or meeting the demand that is there in the market, that is critical in nature. And that is where you have to again prepare for that in advance. Meeting the customer need is also important at this particular point in time, because you must realize that this is the festivities that the Indian population or the Indian consumer enjoys, and this is what
Right.
is of paramount importance for him. If I talk about for somebody to appear good, that is where you dive into the apparels category. They want to look their best, and that's why they buy new clothes. They have a tradition of buying new clothes, and same goes for a lot of sense into beauty and personal care, wherein you want to look good, you want to look at your best, you want to appear the best, because this is the time when you reflect with the festivities. So
Right.
it's of paramount importance to understand that, communicate in a similar way, and then take it forward. So it's very, very evident from the entire consumer behavior or the entire market that what they need at this point in time.
Right. As you rightly mentioned that, a lot of change has happened. So we are living in a very different times today. Okay. And especially in this digital era, the customer expectations have kind of completely changed, and they kind of rise during the festive season. And one of the factors, and we believe that, that's driving the customer expectations is the aggressive marketing push. So is it a very difficult period, this festive season, where you have to balance between the customer expectations and the customer experience?
Yes, of course. Like I think it's an opportunity. It's a double-edged sword. It's
Mm-hmm.
as good an opportunity as it gets. Plus, if you falter at it, it is also a missed opportunity. I can take the
Okay.
example of what we used to do during festivities. I before Swiggy, I was at Google,
Okay.
and I was handling product marketing for Google Pay.
Right.
So every year during the typical festive season, we would launch a gamified experience for
Okay.
users, and it would be based on very strong consumer insights. So things had to change.
Okay.
So we did something pre the pandemic, where we did a
Mm.
Diwali stamp collection thing where things were like it was the regular world. But as we realized, as we hit pandemic in 2020, we realized it would not be the best sentiment to take forward, right? I mean, there is something in the world that has changed, and it's changed dramatically. And you need to address that. You need to talk to that. So we launched a game during that year, which was about, collecting stamps, not really collecting tickets actually, and then using those tickets to travel to different cities within the country. So it was based on that powerful insight that consumers are missing visiting their favorite places, missing visiting the best parts of what they've visited the country. And it was a massive success because it was based on a very powerful insight, and it met consumer expectations in terms of what they would have wanted from anything that was even slightly celebratory. So, yes.
So also, I mean, like, during this festive season, people love to order food. Okay. So what is the kind of, the uplift, that you see on the apps? What is the kind of impact that you see on the food delivery apps?
Okay, I think that would be slightly sensitive data to share. I wouldn't be comfortable sharing that.
But not exactly. I'm not looking at the the percentage uplift or the kind of impact in the percentage numbers, to be very honest. But if you can give us the for example, it's like it's a huge. I understand there is a huge impact. And so what are the kind of different strategies that you deploy to acquire new customers? To connect with the existing customers. You use the kind of strategies to connect with them and make get them into a habit loop of coming again and again during this entire festive season.
See, I think the strategies are pretty straightforward, and if I pick from what was done last year, etc., it is primarily about being in the occasion, not talking a different language from what the consumers are expecting or the mood that the consumers are in, and making the best of that. I mean, if it is festive time, let's accept it is festive time and consumers are looking forward to that festivity. So let the app also, be in that zone. I'd put it that way.
Kapil, let's come to the semantics of, delivering the customer satisfaction. Okay.
Right.
How can, these marketers, optimize for the festive season, to drive higher ROIs? Because at the end of the day, it's the goal is to drive higher ROIs. Okay. Everybody wants to sell more. Everybody wants to, reach out to more and more customers. So how can they, optimize the apps?
Right. So this is one of the most important points, and the thing which I would like to say is that this is a time when app marketers need to have a very balanced perspective towards having the right mix of user acquisition campaigns and remarketing campaigns. Okay. And one strategic way of approaching this is that ideally app marketers can actually start their user acquisition campaigns a bit earlier. Because what happens is during the festive season, it is also a period when the media costs are also at their peak. So that's why what app marketers can do is they can start slightly early before the sales season actually kicks in to take the advantage of the comparatively lower media cost. And as and when the sales season starts approaching and the intent levels rises, they can then start to have a higher focus on remarketing campaigns, because we all know that re-engaging a user is actually much cheaper than acquiring a user altogether. So that would be an interesting or a strategic way of deploying your budgets, and you can actually reserve your user acquisition budgets only for those very key campaigns which you need to run on those sales days. So this will help you to deploy your budgets in a much efficient manner. That is one thing. Having said that, since this is a peak season for the consumers and hence the app marketers, it also presents a big opportunity for the fraudsters. So that's where, especially the marketers who are working with affiliate partners, a fraud prevention tool is something which has to be a part of your marketing stack. Because to tell you, in India, on an average, the fraud rate is around 5%. So just imagine this kind of loss sitting on a balance sheet. So that's why I think the way we see it is fraud prevention is definitely one of the key levers to improve that ROI. So that's where fraud prevention is very important for every app marketer. Additionally, this is a time when time is the most important constraint for all the app marketers, since we are dealing with so many complexities. So that's why if your analytical provider is able to provide you with data in real time, that gives you a significant competitive edge, because first of all, it helps you to do those optimizations in real time. That is one. Secondly, it also helps you to quickly identify if there are any flaws in the implementation, because sometimes it so happens that during implementation you might have implemented a wrong conversion factor or something like that. So it also helps you to identify if there are any execution flaws and quickly course correct it. So it definitely is one of the key abilities to stay ahead in the competition. And lastly, one major challenge which all the MMPs, especially Adjust, tries to solve for app marketers is that a lot of these app marketers during this period are working with a lot of partners, campaigns, creatives, and so on. So you can understand, like it could be a like marketing nightmare to manage all these campaigns and creatives to identify which campaign is working. Then also keep on checking these dashboards of, let's say, Facebook or Google and so on. So the way we try to simplify is we have an interface wherein a marketer can actually see all his campaigns in one single screen. So that gives them a clear visibility, and filters can actually help him to narrow down on which are his top performing campaigns. And basis that, what they can do is they can quickly do those bid and budget adjustments from the same screen itself. So just imagine the kind of time it is saving app marketers, and that could really help them to sleep well. That is one thing. And with Adjust, we even take this one step ahead, wherein we also have something called a rule engine, which actually helps marketers to set criteria for the campaigns. Like, for example, let's say if ROAS, day 3 ROS is your key KPI. So you can set a criteria that day 3 for campaigns which hit a day 3 ROAS of 30%, increase the bid by 10%. So you can actually implement these kind of automation rules in your marketing, so that it will automatically start optimizing towards the best performing campaigns. And as a result, it will save a lot of time of app marketers from this mundane task and help them to focus on the creative aspect, wherein they can improve the effectiveness of the creatives to drive even better outcomes. So I think all these in totality can help app marketers to really stay calm and improve their ROI during this festival season.
Interesting. I actually mentioned a very interesting point, Kapil, about, how marketers need to stay agile, and need to focus on the real-time data, basically, in terms to drive higher ROIs, drive better engagement and keep on improving, evolving their campaign so that, better engagement can happen. So Amit, coming to you on the real-time insights, how critical it is, in your case, the real-time data for a, effective communication strategy?
I think the entire business that we've built, especially on the platform side, also on the product side, as in the brand side, is pretty much built on inciting. Even in fact, it even started before we built the Insure app as we know it today. Because when we studied a lot of user behavior in our D2C platforms which existed before Insure, what we realized that there was a latent need in the market for allowing customers to order their favorite cuisines from known restaurants, right? Not a generic restaurant, but a proper Chinese restaurant like made in China, or Mandarin Oak that we have, a proper pizza brand like an Oven Story, or a proper biryani brand like Behrooz, and combine them together. When we started eShore, we were very clear that we wanted to do this, enable this for our customers. So eShore is an app wherein you can merge orders from multiple restaurants, get it delivered at the same time. And even after that, if you look at the way our journeys are today, our app journeys are today, we strive to make this even more convenient for the customers every time that we release a new update. Because we do study a lot of customer journey flows and optimize all these journeys in the simplest possible way for our users. I'm not saying we're there, but we are getting closer to an optimum experience every day. Also, on the product side, it helps us to kind of notice how do customers interact with our brands, with our products. For example, we realize that a lot of customers keep searching or toggling between a mutton biryani and a chicken biryani. And a lot of them want both, right? So that was the insight which drove us to launching Do Gosht Ki Biryani, in which there is one biryani which has mutton and chicken both, which was addressing the customer problem when we kind of observe their behavior. The other collection that has really been working for us is a collection that we call Cheesy Affair, in which we realize that there is a significant cohort of customers which love cheese, who love everything with cheese in them, right? So we created a collection for them, which is called the Cheesy Collection, which brought in all of the best cheese-based products from all of our brands. It could be a pizza, it could be a lasagna, it could be a wrap with cheese, and all of that, right? So it could be a mac and cheese bowl and so on and so forth. So we leverage insights every single day. In fact, we dedicate a lot of time to study how a customer is behaving on our app or our website, how are the journey flows happening. We happen to review them every single day just to check if something's broken, if something's working all right. So a lot of our existence is centered around the data that we mine through our apps. And that is what helps us keep growing and keep evolving.
Right. Smita, like Amit mentioned that, they study a lot of data, they study a lot of customer behavior to identify what's broken, and how the experience of the customer is. So in your opinion, in your understanding, how important is, to understand, to create a overall seamless omni-channel experience for the customer, so that the brand can talk to the customers, across all these multiple channels, in a very unified manner, how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely crucial, right? So while Amit spoke about food, where innovations probably are much easier and it's much more quicker, even consumer preference can change, it can come back. So there's a lot of dynamic things in impulsive categories. For our category, while it is about somebody buying a mattress in 10 to 12 years, so it's not that the consumer's happiness can affect that same consumer then and there. But either ways, insights is something that drives every business. So for us, we used insights to launch products which are an extension of the sleep space. So accessories, mattress protectors, pillows. We make a lot of foam, and we have expertise in making sofas. So we launched sofas which were an extension of sleep and comfort. So we got into new product categories as well. But for an existing category and for our core of our business, this category is 80% driven by word of mouth. So even if you've done all your research, your friend or your family can totally tell you, don't buy this brand, or oh yeah, go for it. Even if you've evaluated some other brand, they'll say, no, you know what, you should check out Euroflex also. So while we do all the advertising activities, it is very important for us to read our NPS scores, our consumer reviews on all the platforms, social, what is the consumers asking, because this category is also in the evolution of where consumers are understanding the category itself. There's no knowledge. So there's a lot of chatter and questions and a lot of knowledge that the consumer seeks before they actually make the purchase. So that journey is very important to us to hear, read, keep our eyes close to the ground and be a thought leader and do that 80% of the consumer's sentiment. It's also important from an omni point of view to really play a large role from a discovery point of view, right? So 80% of the discovery happens online for our offline channels today. So, being a digital marketed brand first compared to many other legacy brands in the category, we managed to do that well, where we are able to, assist discoverability for our brand and our products. And that's when we want consumers to really make up the mind about the brand and the product. And the channel comes last. Being an omni brand, we are probably the only brand in the category where the product, the price portfolio, everything is similar across channels across the country. So it's not a different, portfolio in different channels, which typically brands in this category used to follow. So for us, it's about the consumer making up the mind about the brand. And then wherever they want to shop, assisting them. Definitely in our D2C experience centers, making sure that movability, that whole loop is more closely watched and we are able to service that consumer equally as well. And making sure that finally the consumer converts for our brand at their choice of channel. So for us, channel is something we don't try to convert. When we don't spend a marketing dollar in trying to convert consumer to some other channel, it's mainly brand. And and we are more into about building long-term favorability for the brand, because unlike food, the consumer doesn't wake up and say, today I want to buy a Duraflex mattress, right? Or unlike beauty, where they can experiment, throw the bottle if it's not good. Here, if they bought the product, they're stuck with it, for good or bad, they're stuck with it for times, because it's an expensive investment. So every consumer lost is lost for the category and the brand. So for us, we make sure that we invest time and effort in servicing that consumer, firstly getting the consumer, making the right communication, because you can't fool this consumer. If you do, the after effects are more powerful for sure. So make sure that the connect with the consumer is very strong, they're serviced well, the post-purchase feedback is taken, and if anything, that they are satisfied for any sort of a thing that they want more. And then post that, we really rely on the advocacy and the reviews and all those testimonials that they leave behind as well. So it's slightly different, but the rules of the game stays the same, where insights are as critical to grow the brand and the business.
Correct. And Harsh, what are the key focus areas of the what are the key focus areas that you keep for the communication of your products, especially during this time? What are the kind of insights that you have derived throughout the year that will now be leveraged in your communication to connect with your customers?
Yeah. So across this particular year or time of the year, basically, I mean, the insights, as everyone has already mentioned, that it's of utmost importance. But for us, what it means is, from a wide range of products, we need to dive deeper into data. We need to mine deeper into data to come up with solutions what actually consumers are going to buy. There would be seasonalities within the category. There could be multiple aspects that you need to look at from the data, in terms of, let's say, suppose if a Diwali is coming in, Diwali is a festival of lights, right? So you want to be probably glowing. So what helps your skin glow? So just a simple example of connecting the dots over here within the category, or, tweaking your communication to that particular level, could be a change or could be a big conversion driver for the consumer. Because you then again resonate with the consumer that, this is a need, this is a latent need that the consumer has. And identifying that from data becomes, very, very, very important. And once you've identified that, all your communication needs to be tailored accordingly, right? So you need to communicate that in your ads, you need to communicate in your brand messaging, when they land on your website, when they land on your app, all of the places needs to be synchronous across the channels, across the media, and across the board. And that is where you will basically drive the critical impact that you want during this festive period.
And so what are the kind of tools or technologies, that you're kind of using, A, to derive these insights, and B, to kind of optimize your, ad spendings? I'll come to, Smita and Amit, after you.
Fair. In terms of the tools and technologies, I mean, traditionally, these D2C brands or the D2C companies have invested a lot in data and analytics also. So a simple, analytics tool can help you derive such analytics. I mean, a simple database or querying, on top of that data could help you derive a lot of analytics. The key part of that is you need to think behind what you are going after, because we give a lot of importance to data these days, which is credible, essential, but some of the times, I mean, we might forget that there is a wealth of data that needs to lie, and you need to basically understand where do you want to go with that, right? So you could be lost in terms of searching so many other insights where you might have a big insight sitting right in front of you. So you need to be cognizant of the fact, I mean, you cannot play on all insights. You need to mine out the most important of insights and play it out during your festivity. So talking about more in terms of tools and analytics, I think these are certain features, certain, drivers or certain contributors that will impact in terms of what consumer base to go after. A basic segmentation of sorts in terms of knowing who your loyal base is, or going after, RFM segments or basic basic idea of segmentation. What does the consumer want? A cross category purchaser, or something of that sort within your database with the first party data that you have. It becomes essential, and it's not just at this particular point in time. It's a long term process built over a period of time, where you constantly look towards data to take your decisions. So that in itself is very, very important. And when it comes to running or publishing your ads, you nowadays, I mean, most of the D2C channels have a plethora of, platforms to go after, right? I mean, there are new age platforms, then there are the regular Facebook and Googles of the world, which are already there. So all of it combined in itself needs to have that uptake, and then the brand needs to take a call on their own media mix in terms of where to go after, in terms of consumers, where to go heavy, where to go, slow. All of that needs to be a conscious call and a conscious decision, in my opinion.
True. Smita, so what are the kind of tools and the tech, that you are using for, deriving these insights and kind of, optimizing your ad spends?
Yeah, it's, I think every marketer's pride and nightmare at the same time. As Harsh said, today a marketer is dealing with so many tools and so many insights. But yeah, the classic problem is, simplification of reading it and actioning it. That still is something that's crucial. However, we have social listening tools. We have a CRM platform where the entire CX teams brings in NPS scores. They get in surveys, they get the whole reading on the post-purchase experience. Then the regular your Google dashboards, we are on Shopify, so the Shopify dashboards itself are very sound. So all that is built into data lakes internally with Google plugins, Facebook, and then agencies who provide a lot of services as well. So there's a plethora of tools that we use. Having said that, definitely there's a need to have more and more unified tools. So we are making those changes where we are looking for partners who can unify it into as much lesser tools. So now we are trying to look at the entire ecosystem of marketing, sales, CRM, and seeing which is a tool which can really cut across, and trying to go more for those kind of tools, because then cross-functional insight sharing becomes much easier. So that's our need right now. But having said that, yeah, there's just a plethora of insights available. It's really about reading the data more than where is the data and how do you get the data.
Right. Amit, is the scenario different at your end, or it's similar to what Harsha and Smita mentioned?
Well, I think the basic challenge remains the same, that you'll get the data, but what do you do with it? And that really is up to you. But having said that, so our tool chains have been evolving over the last few months or a year or so. Obviously, we started like everyone else with a basic marketing automation tool, which gave us the analytics capability, which gave us the capability to orchestrate basic campaigns like push notifications, SMSs, and so on. Obviously, the Google and Facebook ad managers are always there. But what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to build a very robust customer single view, which aggregates all the information, which really tells us who the customer is. And all the actions kind of emanate from there. And that is where we're heading towards, right? How do we make that layer even more powerful? How do we make that layer orchestrate a lot more campaigns? And on the tactical front, of course, we measure the sources from where we get our customers so that we can optimize our ROAS in the short and the midterm. And that I think we've been quite effective in over the last year or so, wherein our CACs have come significantly down. Our CPPs, a cost per purchase, that's an internal metric that we use more than anyone else, but that has come down significantly. And we also earlier this year started a journey with programmatic advertising with DV, and that has also given us very good results in the past few months. So the tool chains are evolving. It's a mixture of what are we trying to build for the longer term, wherein we can make a lot more sense of our customer data. All of it sits in the same place, and then we really know which customer is what. And on a tactical front, we try to keep on optimizing our ad spends, finding those right channels, finding the right aggregators, finding the right remarketers, and hitting that balance between ROAS and building the brand over a longer period of time.
So, that brings me to to my next question. So is festive time, how do you define the balance of the festive time? Is it time to acquire new customers or to serve the existing customers? What's the kind of balance that's between the two parts?
Again, I think without getting into the specifics of each one of these, which I won't be very comfortable sharing, but I think there is merit in both. And I do think that more than it being the festive time, like more than the festive time actually governing what is the strategy, it is the evolution or the stage in which your product is, which should define
Okay.
what you want to do.
Okay.
So, product and category, right? Festive is just an occasion. So if it is a mature category, you would perhaps only lean at looking at switchers, not new to category, and maybe want to get people on like your service to try more products, cross products within the service itself, like within the app itself. But if it is like a more nascent stage product and category, you might want to look out at acquisitions in a big way. So it is more dependent on that, and more than like festivities defining what you want to do.
Agreed. Right. And I'm sure it differs, since there's a, very heavy profiling done about the consumers. So it kind of, differs for each and every customer, depending upon their profile. Somebody may be from, a different cuisine palette, or, somebody may be from a different region. So it all completely differs, right?
See, absolutely. I think in this world where we have access to such rich data, right? We don't go in blind. Nobody does, but and it is about profiling consumers and targeting the right cohorts with the right message. It becomes very, very important. And I mean, if you do that properly, the uplifts that you see, they are also like tremendous. Versus doing a blanket treatment for everyone, there are various ways of cohortizing, right? And we are all aware, we are in this app world, in this digital world where data is easily available. So that utilization of that cohort level intelligence or that data which is based on what consumers have been doing. One is their demographic profiling. Second is what is
True.
has been their behavior with respect to what is there on the app. So I think we use all of that, of course, and I've been doing that in the past as well in my previous stints, and it is super useful and super efficient.
So Kapil, a big problem that large number of marketers deal with is the attribution. So how it is evolving in the today's marketing landscape.
Right. So, we all know that the consumer tastes actually evolve much faster than we marketers take note of, because by the time all these reports start coming up, the changes have already happened. So there is
Right.
always a lag in that reporting. So just one interesting trend which comes to my mind is the consumption of television from linear television to connected television. So
Okay.
that is one trend which our team has been proactive at spotting, and we have actually come up with a product which can actually help marketers to look at CTV from a performance angle. Because what happens is, whenever you talk about television, it is always considered as a channel to engage consumers in the upper funnel. But
Right.
that's where, if you look at connected TV, the interactivity it brings in, it actually enables marketers to, first of all, to engage with the same customer at a screen which is almost 5 to 6 times larger than that of your mobile. Hence, the recall and all the metrics are always better. Additionally, it can actually help you to engage the consumer across any stage of the funnel. And especially for performance marketers, they can actually now able to look at television to drive outcome-based campaigns as well. So just to tell you about our product is, the product which I was talking about is called CTV Ad Vision, which actually helps marketers. For example, if an app marketer is running an app install campaign on any of the connected TV platforms, and if the user installs that app either on the CTV platform or on his mobile device, today a app marketer doesn't need to worry, because he can measure the impact of that particular CTV impression and attribute that install whether it has happened on the CTV platform or the mobile device. So this is
Okay.
one way how attribution platforms are evolving with the evolving consumer behavior. That is one thing. Additionally, in terms of marketers, we also see that today a lot of marketers face one big challenge, that there are multiple touch points in the consumer journey. So they want to actually understand that what is the impact of different touch points, as well as the combination of those touch points to on the final outcome. So that's where Adjust also has an interesting product called multi-touch attribution, which actually helps marketers to understand the assisting power of different touch points on the final outcome. So this is also one of the problems which we found when we are speaking with a lot of advertisers, especially the advanced ones. And this multi-touch attribution is something which also helps them to solve that problem. That is one way we have evolved, not from in a way where the basic methodology is still the last touch attribution, but having the need for multi-touch attribution, we are also working towards solving that problem. Additionally, one big thing you can see in this entire measurement landscape, especially after the ATT implementation, is that we are actually moving to a period where we had the ability to take decision on the basis of very granular user level data. And now we are actually shifting, given the privacy focus which has come into picture after the implementation of iOS 14.5. Now it seems that the advertisers are going to need to make a decision basis aggregate level data. The basically user level data is no longer means the availability is going to decrease, and we'll have to make our decisions on the aggregate level data. So that's where MMPs are actually having a significant challenge to help app marketers to navigate in this kind of landscape as well. And just to tell you how how MMPs are actually helping advertisers to, or especially the app marketers, to navigate the SK ad network, which was Apple's SK ad network framework. Then our free solutions, which most of the MMPs offer, actually help them to take the technical burden away from the SK ad network framework, and the businesses can simply rely on the MMP's SDK to handle the ongoing updates and maintenance for the SDK and conversion tracking. So that is one practical example I can cite about how the changes in the advertising ecosystem has actually evolved the MMPs to support the client needs. So this is how even the MMPs are evolving along with the changes in the consumer behavior and the app marketing landscape.
Interesting. The way you've shared a solution, it's pretty interesting, and I'm sure the marketers will be taking a note of it. So coming back to you all. So what are your anticipations for 2022, and how do you expect it to be different from the 2021 festive season? Smita.
2020 and 2021, both where it was all about which brand is smarter, which brand is investing more, which any brand could take a lion's share out of their categories worth during these 2 years, because definitely it was about being opportunist and being in the right place at the right time in the right way. Right. When I say opportunist, not in a negative sense, but having all your levers rightly placed to get the most out of it, which unfortunately not many brands did. So in that sense, it was different. It was of hyper growth for a brand like ours, where we more than doubled our business. So those sort of extreme situations where either a brand drops off or a brand really grows in a very hyper growing way, I think those extreme situations is not what this year is going to be about. It's going to be of good growth, but the range of that growth is going to be like a normal year, which is good actually, that we are going back to that. But obviously, the hoopla and the excitement for certain categories is going to average out in a normal way. For some other categories like fashion, lifestyle brands, which completely dropped off and the mood was very dull, I'm hearing that they are going back to a real growth over pre-COVID 2019 levels. So it's great for the economy that large categories of retail, lifestyle, fashion, they're all coming back and they are finally seeing growth. So in that sense, this is a year where all the categories are now going to grow. not that one category is growing and the other is kind of dead, so it's a normal year in that sense. Having said that, it is again a time when external circumstances are not great. I mean, people are getting into a mode of saving, and maybe global recessions fear loom while the Indian situation is great. So there is a mixed feeling in terms of consumer sentiment, whether is it finally good or not. So I think there's a little bit of mixed feelings still lingering around, and definitely the external economic conditions lend to that. So it is a wait and watch. Let's see what to do. Not the euphoria yet from a
Okay.
consumer sentiment point of view. Having said that, yes, the Diwali spirit has started in terms of shopping, and we are seeing a great uptake on our e-commerce platforms, which have already started their big Diwali dhamaka sales and all that. So yeah, let's wait and watch, and let's hope all categories do well this year. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
finally, we are able to see good signs across categories.
Absolutely. So Amit, food is always in demand. Okay, people love food. So what's the anticipation this year?
Uh, Evolving and interesting is what I'd say. So we saw a definite change in behavior in the first and the second lockdown, right? In the first lockdown, in the first year, we realized that people were very hesitant to get anything inside. In fact, there was a period of time wherein we were not very sure about how does COVID react, and all of us would keep all our packages out in the sun for a couple of hours, just in the
Yeah.
hope that the virus would die away. By the time the second wave came in, I think a lot of those apprehensions died down because we now knew how does the virus behave, and a lot of food ordering was happening while people were at their home because there were very few avenues to do anything else. I think this year, if Ganpati and Navratri are indicators to go by, people are celebrating everything with a lot more gusto. So I think the one thing that I anticipate definitely happening is that a lot more people are going to come together and they're going to celebrate. And it might be they're calling it revenge travel. They're calling it, it might be revenge celebrations this festive period. So I certainly am hoping, and I'm guessing that a lot more people will come together. They would have missed celebrating a lot of occasions over the last couple of years, which are lost years really, and try and make up for it this year. And we definitely hope to have a very buoyant festive period. And as Smita said, hopefully everyone will. So, yeah.
I believe Harsh can, Harsh would definitely agree with you, right, Harsh?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, great start to the festivities and hope it continues. The positivity continues for all the brands and the categories. I mean, if I just have to look at initial numbers, initial signs, initial reads, it's just been good. And I mean, for all brands, it does continue throughout the festivities.
See, in terms of anticipation, we've got our own plans. We've got stuff that we want to do. I don't really. So to me, a big difference was the times when there was pandemic was at its peak,
Right.
when obviously we know what happened to the world. From
Correct.
that, we moved to a very different world right now. So we are positive. We are looking at it with a very, open, we have a positive, and we are expecting good results during this festive is how I would put it.
Okay.
But no, it's not very different from what it would have been in any regular world scenario is how I'd put it. Right.
Great. And my final question is that, what do you, we have spoken about, implementation, optimization, tell us something, what happened in last 1 year, in the marketing space that helps you sleep longer than you used to before during the festive of 2021?
That helps us sleep longer. I really don't think there is anything that I can put my finger on and say that it's left us relaxed, or the world has become a better place for our industry, at least. I'm not really sure if there is anything of that. I would say just one thing, right? Like going back, Devesh, to what I was talking about just a few seconds back. It is this whole thing, right? There is lesser fear of pandemic right now.
Okay.
And the pandemic obviously means a lot of negative sentiment in the market.
Yeah.
Right. And it is definitely something that seems to be a thing of the past. I would say that is one thing if you were to ask me.
Sure.
makes us.
Great. I believe, like Smita rightly mentioned that the euphoria is already there. People are going out, people are, already in that zone where they are spending. And it's not like the previous 2 years, where, the sentiment was different, sentiment was more about, let's see what happens, let's see what's in the play, what will come. Today, like people are more open, and today people feel more secured and relaxed. Great guys. These are really lovely insights, that you all shared, in terms of, how you are looking at the festive campaigns, in terms of messaging, in terms of communication, in terms of omnichannel experiences, the kind of insights that you are drawing, and especially more also in terms of, how the planning for it, begins at the end of, at the starting of the year, and how it, goes on, to become bigger and bigger, by the time the festive season arrives. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing these insights with us. It was really great having you all here. Thank you, Kapil. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, Mag. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Our
everyone.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thank you.